Okay, Dr. Maggie, we need to know what the heck is food mapping and why did you create it?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Good evening, everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us tonight on Autoimmune Table Talk Live. I'm your co host, Anna Manuel.
And I'm Maggie Yu, MD, functional and holistic physician and the creator of Transform and the Transform protocol for turning around autoimmune disease naturally.
I am so excited about this discussion tonight because we had a really powerful talk last week about your
Mm.
personal autoimmune timeline. And we've gotten so much feedback about it, and people just really appreciative of everything that you
Mhm.
shared and also wanting to know more. We just touched on your journey and how it really plays into the creation of Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally and the five pillars. And so, one of those pillars is something we really want to focus on tonight, and that's food mapping.
There are so many pieces of my health that was related with food that I only discovered over the course of the next 10 years. And at that time, I didn't know. When you know better, you do better. But at the time, I didn't know better. I did go gluten free, but that didn't solve all the problems.
Can we talk about gluten for just a moment? Because yes, that is one of the primary things people hear about is it's important to be gluten free for, would you say, everyone that's dealing with autoimmune issues?
100%. And everybody in my program knows why.
Okay.
So we go into big educational training around this and why gluten is a super allergen and a super autoimmune trigger for 1,000 reasons. So absolutely, everyone who has autoimmune disease needs to be gluten free.
Okay, so big bonus tip for everybody watching there. That is one thing that you can do. But that's not the only thing. And so in your program, you obviously learn, it's not a blanket, you have to cut out this entire food group for all of the other foods. Gluten is kind of unique when it comes to that.
Yeah, gluten is very unique in the world of autoimmunity. But the problem is people are dealing with these elimination diets that tells them to eliminate 80% of the food on the planet. And that's what they should do if they have autoimmune disease.
And
And that's
you think
freaking bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm going to get beeped out of that. What I'm going to tell you is this is that in my experience dealing with thousands of people with autoimmunity, including myself, these elimination diets made me sicker and sicker, more malnourished, more depressed than ever. And it was unsustainable and it didn't help in the long run. In the short run, I got a little bit better, but in the long run, I got I lost so much weight and these crucial vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that I needed to make healthy brain hormones and body hormones were just gone. How can you eliminate 80% of the foods on the planet and call that healthy and expect people to do that long term? And the other thing is, how many people out there in the program even did these elimination diets only to find out once they had the data was that it was one of the foods that was supposedly safe that was the main culprit and not the other 80 foods they had to eliminate all the freaking time. So, elimination diets is generalized information personalized to no one. And it's
Mhm.
freaking BS. If you want to eliminate something, fine, go gluten free. But don't you dare eliminate anything else or large groups of stuff and thinks that's a long-term sustainable way to have autoimmune recovery because I don't see it happening and I haven't seen that in my career.
So after you went gluten free, you realized this is not the only piece of the puzzle. There has to be more. At the same time, you're a practicing physician and you're dealing with hundreds of patients who are
Yeah.
coming to you with these same
Yeah.
issues. And so you're doing all kinds of food sensitivity testing and you're realizing a big problem with these tests.
Well, that's the thing is, if I went gluten free and that helped temporarily, which it did, but I still was sick, still had tons of GI symptoms, a lot of pain, recurrent urinary tract infections. There's still a lot of stuff going on. I was like, there's got to be some reliable way with which we could figure out what these foods were that was triggering autoimmunity. And at the same time, in my clinic, which is an integrated clinic, we're running hundreds of these tests every month on patients, and we tried hundreds of different brands of tests on patients. And patients were also bringing me tests from other doctors that were being done. And my colleagues at the time was telling me, all the medical colleagues are like, food sensitivity doesn't really exist. Number
Mhm.
one, not true.
No.
Number two, all food sensitivity testing suck. Not true. Okay. Number three, food doesn't matter. Biggest lie of all. Okay. Obviously, they don't have autoimmune disease.
Doctors do say that a lot though. You'll say, which diet should I try to work with this? And the doctors, I've been told by my own doctors, you don't need to worry about diet. It doesn't make an impact.
So you're speaking as someone who had 30 minutes of training on nutrition and diet and the impact on disease. So all of you out there have more training than your doctors did on food and nutrition.
It's scary. And
You're listening to them?
right. It's hard to fault the doctors because, like you said, they're just not trained in it.
Well-meaning people are really misinformed. And so back to the food sensitivity testing was, then I thought, are there good testing? Well, what I found was out of the hundreds of different kinds of tests out there, there are certain tests that are better than others. But interestingly, even as I ran these good tests, I found that autoimmune patients react differently than the normal population to testing.
Very
So
important to
this
discover.
is a really important point, everybody. So even first of all, when you go out there and get your own test or go beg your doctor for a test, 99% of the time, those tests are bad. 1% of those tests are good. But the problem is being autoimmune, we have a really weird immune system that gives us false positives and false negatives. So if your doctor, even if they ran the right test, don't understand what's false positive and false negative in an autoimmune person, the results from that test is useless because it's a misunderstanding of those results, misinterpretation of that results by physicians who have no clue how autoimmune patient test results show differently. So I discovered that and I was like, wow, we can't just order the right test on someone. We have to educate people on what are false positives and false negatives if they have autoimmune disease. We have to train doctors and we have to train patients themselves. So when they get told some BS, they know the difference. That's what we do in the programs. It's like a 2-month training program, a master's degree on how to understand food mapping. And it's not just getting the right test. Oh, Chris, she
Mhm.
was on an elimination diet. She lost a ton of weight. She's a high tech executive who, did all these elimination diets and found out that at the end of it, it was just eggs. She didn't have to eliminate all those other foods. And she said, the feeling I had for 5 months was when she ate eggs. I never want to feel like that again. And I won't. Lesson learned. Such a simple test with such great impact. She was
Wow.
on the blood type diet,
It-
which had her cut 50 foods out that she wasn't even sensitive to. This is
Unnecessary.
typical of what our clients discover when they go through our program. But this is the stuff that I had to learn when I was going through all the food sensitivity testing. I mean, I think overall, over $1 million was spent on all the different kinds of food sensitivity testing to figure out what the 99% of crap was, what's good tests, but also training myself to fully understand and teach people what are false positives, what are false negatives. And yet, that's not the end of this.
Mm.
Okay. Because I did that on me. And I did discover what the other real positives and negatives were. And yet, I wasn't fully better because guess what?
There's
This is
other.
called food mapping. It's
Yeah.
not just a food test, people. I discovered that people with autoimmunity had really shitty digestion.
Mhm.
And this was 10 years ago. There wasn't any research around this. Thank God research is backing me up. But what I discovered was why is it people with autoimmunity, even first of all, they have all these extra food sensitivities, false positive, false negative. And even if you did that, they were maybe 50, 60% better. What was missing? And I discovered, oh, digestion. I
Yeah.
think people with autoimmune disease have really bad digestive issues. And
Critical. You have to address that too.
lo and behold, critically, recently in the last couple of years, there's many steps of digestion that can be broken genetically. But what we already found that just the first step, low stomach acid, just the first step, low stomach acid. Do you know how many percentage of people with autoimmune disease have low stomach acid, Ann?
I'm guessing it's high.
90%. That's just the first step in your digestion. Doesn't even count all the other steps. So I have myself had low stomach acid in my entire life. That's why I had bloating. That's why I couldn't handle all that food. My mom was telling me to eat and eat and eat. And that's a layer that's on top of also food sensitivities. What about your digestion? Right? And then when you have poor digestion, that impacts upon your ability to absorb some of the key vitamin and nutrients that you need to fight autoimmunity. So, how many people with autoimmunity have also low B12, low magnesium, no calcium, iron? Like these are all linked with poor digestion, food sensitivity, also infection in the gut. When you have poor digestion, you're going to have more infections in your gut because your digestive enzymes, your stomach acid defends you from infection. So, this is a big kitten caboodle.
If these steps aren't getting addressed, you're not going to get better. In fact, you're going to keep getting worse, most likely.
And that's exactly what happened was I realized this is a process. This whole thing that the whole kit and caboodle is what I call food mapping. It's not just the right test. It's all the education around a master's degree about how to understand these test results, but how to integrate it with also digestion, absorption, infection pieces that you can learn about as you're looking at these results. And there's also a huge genetic component. Some of these results really have ramifications, not just for you, but for your children.
What is a big takeaway that if somebody was watching this, what do you want them to know about food and food mapping?
I think what I really want to say is this is that people say, "Oh, this gives me hope." Screw hope. I'm going to tell you this. Hope is what I eat for breakfast. Data and results is how we end the day. And you absolutely can get data and results. And what that requires when you want to recover and end autoimmunity, how do you interrupt that pattern is a decision and an action that you're going to take right now.
Hmm.
It takes decisions and actions to change your future. And so the most important decision you can make is start a chat with our team. Okay. Learn more. Join our Facebook group. Watch some more videos about food mapping, my story. Watch some testimonial case studies. I don't know any other program in the world or any other doctor in the world that has as much data and proof as we do for as many different autoimmune diagnoses and symptoms as we do. So use us, take advantage of us, reach out to us. We want to hook you up with those resources. If you want some help with your autoimmunity, comment below and check your message requests. Maybe a couple hours from now, I bet you someone from our team have reached out to you. Start a chat with our team and tell us what's going on with your autoimmunity. We have tons of case studies and trainings we could share with you. It just takes you reaching out. So do that.